Another common 015025 problem that you're going to come across is a lot of stuff like this, where they just want you to simplify by combining items together. I can't really say terms because there's only technically one term here, but you get the idea. So when we're looking at this, a lot of times what happens is they kind of sort of get it, but not really. And where they get tripped up is right here when they hit the powers. They'll do things like they'll want to multiply the first constants, the coefficients, right? And then they'll want to multiply the powers at the same time. They want to keep them the same, but really that's not the case that's happening here. So a great place I like to start is just to break everything down. When I'm looking at 3x squared, what that literally means is 3 groups of x squared, which is just x times itself twice. So what I'm doing here is I'm breaking it down. I'm really expanding it so it gives it more meaning. I'm saying 3 times x times x. Well, that's 3 times x times x. And I'll point to that as I go through the whole thing. This guy says, well, I want to multiply it by 2 times x times x times x. It's 2 times x 3 times. Well, 2 times x times itself 3 times. So what I've done here is just expand it. And when I do it this way, it makes a lot more sense. I can replace all of these parentheses. Since it's all entirely multiplication, I can replace it to be 3 times x times 2 times x times x times x. Looking at this whole thing now, it makes a lot more sense. Oh, I know what 3 times 2 is. That's 6. And I know what x times x times x times x times x is. If you count them, there's 5 of them all together, and that's what I would write together. So when you expand it this way, yeah, it takes longer, but it's a great visual to really understand what's going on here. And it makes sense when you look at the whole thing, why it is that we're adding the powers and we're multiplying the leading coefficients. But there's more than one way that you can approach this. That's just one of the techniques that I like. The other way that we're looking at is you can just start to apply the rules that you learn, and this is what people tend to do who are better at math. They tend to just skip to this step, and when you're working with the people coming in, you'll find they'll learn this eventually, but just have them practice expanding first. But the other option is that, well, you multiply the constants first, and then you would multiply those variables, and you know that means that you should add the powers. So it's doing the same thing, only it's it's taking all of those steps, broken apart, and combining it together in one. And the last thing you can do, if you find that they're having a hard time keeping the powers straight, knowing when to add the powers when they go, a lot of times you'll see they'll do something like 2x squared plus 4x to the 5th power. And what they'll want to do is go, oh, well, I can go 2 plus 4 is 6 and 2 plus 5 is 7, but that's not the case. If they start doing stuff like this where they're not sure how to handle the powers, take a look at my other video, which is talking about the math chain, and it really is beautiful. It explains the whole process in great detail.